Well, welcome in everybody. Happy Friday. And yes, Jimmy, it is Friday again. Um, I don't know where the week went, but it sure went quick. So, welcome in everybody. Say hi in the chat. Let me know you can hear me. Ken was the first one in, but wanted to give credit to somebody else for some reason. Not sure why. Um, and Hi, Mom. Welcome. Nice to see you in here. Um, you don't have a game tonight, so that's good. So you can come hang out with us. Hopefully, you've been watching the hockey stuff going on in the Olympics. It's been fun watching both the men and the women. Jimmy, welcome in. And if you're out there, just say hi, even if you're in the background doing some of your own modeling or doing something else. Just good to know you're in here. Make sure my settings are correct. So everything should be correct. You should be hearing me and seeing me. So let's get started with our Friday night. So we're starting to warm up here in Minnesota. Hopefully other parts of the world are warming up too. Hopefully out east where it's been even much colder than it's been in Minnesota. Hopefully it's getting a little warmer. But I think we're going to see the 50s this week here in Minnesota. I think we've gotten close so far. So thanks, Jimmy, for confirming that it looks good. You're looking at my dirty paper towel here. As I get older, I'm frequenting the doctor more than anywhere else these days. Haven't been feeling well, so went to the doctor. They said get over it and change your lifestyle. I hear that often, and so we're going to try and do that. In the meantime, I thought more about our conversation last time about the modules while I continued some work on the Campbell kit. I'm pretty convinced now at this point that I'm going to end up with the two modules that I have. I'm going to end up taking up the board that's on there, getting some 1-inch foam from insulation foam from Menards or Home Depot or out here, and cut that up and end up putting that on top of the two modules that I have. They're 2 foot by 4 foot modules, and starting to work hopefully on the prototype scene, I think is what I will go for. In the meantime, what have I done on the kit? I've put these two sides together. You can see we talked about last time, what colors, and I decided to go with stain, and so I used the Hunterline Creosote Black, which was this stuff. Comes off really dark, but as you can see, it's kind of I think the lighting is not great for this, but it comes off looking like just weathered wood, and so to me it looks really nice. I went with that, and then the next piece of it. So I'm actually going on to, let me pull up. So we got down to step 12, which actually goes on to the back page of the instructions. Still looks like a lot of work to do, but now we're doing more coloring of stuff. So this is all the windows and the plastic windows and door that it wants to color. Also wanted you to do some coloring on the uh, building itself. So I did weathering on it, and so it's not gonna. I'll have to zoom in. The other thing I realized is I have to do another door, another one of these A6s, because that will go on here, and that'll have another door guide for those to hang however you want to hang them on there. And this one's for the side here, whether you want it open or closed. And then this one here is for this end. But let's take a look here. So this is going to come off really shiny and hard to see. So I started off trying weathering powders. The Monroe models, they used to be AIM weathering powders. And I didn't dull coat this or anything to start with, which I should have if I was going to use the powders. Little less control and everything. And so I decided I was going to be more patient and use some oil paints. And so what I was using for this are these Ammo by MIG oil brushers, and really all they are just oil paints in mascara bottles. But what they do, other than the mess I make, so that's the brush. So if I wanted to brush on, I could. I didn't do that, though. I use just a lid. I was testing some grays and things out, but I used the oil paints here, and so I just put the brush down here, and I was using two brushes. I was using like a fine tip brush to make some to dot, and then I was using makeup brush to pull down the streaks. So I got these from Amazon, and so I was using some of those to pull down the streaks of the oil paints, and miraculously I was able to leave this stuff alone. Hey Dwight, welcome in. Nice to have you in here, and I know it's pretty late for where you are, so if you fall asleep while watching, no offense taken on that. And Tom, welcome in. So and Tom, you're the one who, well, yeah, actually you're the one who introduced the oil brushes to me, the oil brusher. And I think that I could use the brush from time to time, but for this I wanted very small streaks. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this really well because it's still very shiny. I haven't, like I said, I haven't dull coated it. Let's turn that down. Let's mess with the lighting a little bit. See if we can get some of that lighting off. Not too good here, but okay, there we go. So you can see some of the, and now in this light, this is really exaggerated. When I look at it, I use the rust color, which is a lighter. There's the red primer, which I only use sparingly. The rust, which is like a light color rust, and then the dark brown for dark rust. Here's a little bit of the dark rust. This is all the regular rust color. That was the dark brown. And so I put streaks throughout it. So this actually is a good way to highlight it here of varying degrees. Anywhere that there was, more usage or pulled up stuff, I tried to get more around the doors and window sills, and then up in the roof area here you can see got some streaks in there. The thing with oil paints is they don't dry right away, so when you're using even a makeup brush to pull them down, you got to be very, very gentle because you'll pull the paint completely off, and I did that a number of times. Here's some more. I tried to work around the edges, get some definition here where some of that is pulled up, and then up here as well, and then on the doors as well. And doors where I started with the powders, but again, I didn't put anything for them to bite on this shiny surface, so ended up having to switch over. So that is what I got done this week. And Folds Bailey Model Railroad, welcome in. Nice to have you in there. Have you in here. Wow. It's going to be a long night if I'm talking like this. But that's really what I got done. The other thing I did is, at work, to make a long story longer, at work, we're really pushing the use of AI for our clients and for some of our. Oh, wait, before I do that, I wanted to show this off. This is a detail that came with it. I don't understand why there was one detail with the rest of the windows and door. But there's this shovel. And so I was really impressed with my work on the shovel. So I want to show that off. So just a little model air paint from Vallejo for the shaft of the shovel. This is the paint pen that I like to use for the aluminum. That's the AK aluminum. And then a little bit of dark paint for the handle. So I'm getting better with detail work. Still have the shaky hand and everything that doesn't help, but it's there. Okay. So we use AI for a number of our applications at work. And then we basically work with our clients using that technology. And so on a break, I spent some time using Microsoft Copilot and trying to see what information I could glean on. Okay, man. Okay, so my lighting is doing its own thing now. So I'm going to shut that off for 1 second for whatever reason. I'm not sure what it's doing. So let's see here. So you can see that while I'm trying to tell my story, I guess. So I asked it the question that I've asked in some groups and things out there on Facebook and Discords and things like that. If I'm ever going to be able to do the curves that I need for 4 tracks for 85-foot cars. And as it went through, it did search and it showed some of those stuff it searched, and those were all legitimate places where I was finding other answers. So I went with it. Um, they and it said that the best curves for 85-foot cars, 5 foot 5 car trains would be would be 30, 32, 34, and 36-inch radius. And that's going to make gigantic. I don't know. Well, maybe I can fit it in the space somehow, but the table, the modules can't be like Fremo modules, like the 2-track Fremo modules are 26 inches in width. I'm going to need 4 or 6 foot width to get those curves around and stuff. Um, so I'm certainly going to need some help, more help with designing something if I'm going to put it in our current space. So that pushed me more to working on um, so a small drying booth, is that like ultraviolet drying, Tom? Like for like nail polish dryers use or whatever, or like the stuff that they use for resin prints, for drying resin prints. Um, so I'm more convinced, again, going back to what I'd like to do, Tom, though, is if I'm going to do the prototype certificate, I can do that with straight track. So while I wouldn't be building out my full layout, um, I could do this. Use the modules I have, and um, okay, so circulating air. I could do so I could do the prototype scene, I think, um, with the modules I have, with the 8 feet. I know there's some operability that needs to be there, but I can still demonstrate that on an 8 feet. And so that's what I think I'm going to focus on working on next, as I try and get the cars done. Um, and then we'll worry about more modules and completing the whole thing. Um, okay. When is that one coming out with Greg? Um, he's a good guest to have on the podcast for sure, because he'll certainly talk and get a good podcast out of him. The last one he did was very good too. Um, so yeah, so that's what I think I'm gonna do, to see if I can move towards another certificate and get closer to one that way. And then just where the let the chips fall where they may, and down the line maybe a bigger space comes along, and then I can do the whole layout thing. The if I'm never going to be able to do that for like electrical, civil, for the layout thing, I could go down to N scale. And I should be able to fit that in. But that will be a future problem. So, and so I can get with the doing the doing the station scene as the prototype scene. I'll have enough structures, I think, around that. And if we go to prototype modules, has to have at least 6 models of prototype equipment or structures. So that can include the cars on the track, include the station, and any other prototype pieces or buildings that I can fit in there, and I, so I certainly think I can fit that in. So, the scene also must include 2 different types of rolling stock, or railroad structure, and motive power. And 2 of the 6 models must be scratch built, of which I will have multiple already. The remainder must be super detailed, and plans or photographs must be provided. And so, I'm thinking that's something that we can pull together. And there is no size requirement, but it's just, they say it's just got to be big enough to adequately give the overall effect of the intended scene and have all the required models. And then you have to earn a merit award for that. And they give points for terrain, structures, background, and some additional points for lighting. And then big category is realism and conformity. So meaning you're going to provide the pictures, you're going to provide the scene, and they've got to be pretty close. So I think that will be the next step. Hey, Randy, welcome in. So, yeah, we've had a few in here, Tom, that yep, Ken was here first, and so we always have more in here than comment. And I know a bunch of you like to work in the background and listen in, and that's just fine. Just saying hi, doing the thumbs up thing helps the channel out and all of that jazz. I'm not a salesman, so I'm not going to sit here and try and sell you on jumping in and subscribing. Almost all of you are probably subscribers who show up anyway, so much appreciate it. I have a nice core group that love to come see my mistakes, and so I know that Gopher Girl had to run some errands tonight, so I don't believe she's in right now. But I have to get from her. I was going to work on these, and I might just go ahead and maybe everyone in the chat can tell me what they think the color should be, but she's usually my color guru on what the windows should be. I almost kind of want to rough up this plastic a little bit just to, I don't know, make it more like wood, because I just don't see a structure like this having, windows are wood and these look very plasticky. And so I don't know what they would be painted. The trim here is all stained with the creosote black is what I went with all of it. So that won't work for the windows, I don't think. But curious what people think should be the windows here. If you're seeing a let's see here. So I believe window would, like this one would come in, would be, and I gotta, well, let's go ahead and lose them right away too. But, and then I'll have to trim it down a little bit, but I don't know what we would do other than like a dark or a brown color. But anybody have any opinions on what color the windows should be? And then there's one door that will go on this end here next to the very rusty and silvery doors there. But this one will end up over in here. So since I have no sense of color on when it comes to design, and then after the windows, we go back into so we go back to these supports that they'll want us to glue in, not upside down like that, but glue in like that. And then and then work through the roof part of that. And then after that, there is this whole this whole, let's see if we can show you here. So you're going to glue those in and then have the supports come across. And of course, these will go in there, and then we'll have you work down onto the support on the bottom, and then we'll be able to finish it out. Again, I'm trying with all the health stuff going on, and to my surprise, I'll call it accidental, but I'm happy about it. I've been gaining nothing but weight all day long, every day. I've been very inactive, and was weighed at the doctor, and I'm down 10 pounds. So that's really good. It's really motivating to see that. I still think it was unintentional on my part, but either way, I've got to get healthier. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to sit here and do this stuff. And so I got to focus on that as well. So that's, and work has taken up a lot of my time as well. So rusty metal window frames. This is safe for work link. Okay. And the parts eating carpet. I have one of those, and it spits out toothpicks sometimes, those, and those hurt. Um, so when I searched for these, the pictures I were getting were all sheds. I did find some steel buildings, corrugated steel buildings, but most of them were sheds, so they were really, really rusty looking. Um, I'm gonna dull coat this and see, and I'll take a picture and get it up online, and see how it looks, and see if it needs more. I was going for a more functional building, but just having it shiny steel would just be boring to me. So having a little bit of that, um, having a little bit of the rust to me is good. Um, but that's what I did. I did corrugated steel warehouse. What did I do? Oh, corrugated steel manufacturer is, I think, what I did, and I got some things, but then it got into sheds and everything. Um, so let's see here. Yeah, if you don't put in rusty, then it comes up with all new buildings. I think it did old is what I did. Not, I don't think I put in rusty originally, but if you put in old, yeah, then you get some really rusty looking stuff. That's, I suppose green's a decent color because that can be, iron. That's rusty. I did try on a single piece. Of course, I'm not going to find it now. I did try the AK Rust, and it's actually morphed twice. So again, I think the knock that I had on this for HO scale was, it's too big of an effect. If it was covering the whole thing, maybe. Uh, let's see here. Let's see if there we go. If you can just get it in the corners or something, it doesn't look too bad. What you don't see on here is the oxidizing effect, making this a lot of it white, um, and a mix, but it comes off too chunky, I think. And these are just little drops of the effect. So it wasn't great doing that. If I really wanted to get some texture to, like, this rust, I could use the powders, putting on the rust itself from the oil brusher, and then add the powder. That's going to give it a definite definition. And so you could do that. I do that with wheels. So I use acrylic paint when I'm painting wheels, but then I'll put in a rust color. Usually I think I use the light rust, just because you can see it better, I think, on cars. But I'll use the on you can see it on the wheels better because you don't see the wheels very much. But I'll use this in a rust colored or brown. I have a chocolate brown I've been using, and then I add the rust to it, and it gives it the texture that you're looking for. So you could do that way instead of this. So I think if you're doing O scale, G scale, maybe S scale, a rusting effect like that could work pretty well. So, and but just looking at um, definitely see some greens and things like that could work. Um, but uh, I suppose any color could really work. That's kind of a washed color to me. Um, just washed out and used kind of color. It might work. But yeah. So what is everybody else working on tonight? And are there anyone know of any train shows or swap meets or train activities this weekend? Obviously tomorrow is a non-model railroading day for most. So that's probably now, but with this being an older building, you can see that even the supports that support these, the trim around the doors is all wood. So I don't know this is supposed to be an older building. I don't know for sure if it would be metal, but that's why a light green would work with the windows. And these all have sills on them and everything, so they wouldn't be. They're a little less industrial, I think, than I would think they would be. But again, back in the olden days, I guess they may have not been that way, or this just may be how the folks at Campbell Scale Models could supply windows. But yeah, so because I think this is an older building, I think wood frames, but yep, you could do peeling paint. So you could do a wood color and then a white over top, and then peel that white away to expose the wood color. I think would work well. I just don't like. I mean, personally, I just don't like. Now this is shiny again, and it's not like a straight white paint, but not a big fan of that on here. But you could paint it any color and have the wood color underneath and chip away again. Do the old hairspray style. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep, you could do that. So I don't really care to get any strikes against me, but there's a number of things. There's ones where they have corrugated covers over windows. They have almost like the corrugation is painted, some of them, and they paint the windowsills the same. Trying to look back for older stuff. Let's see if I can see this. Like rusted metal. I see one with white doors with rusted metal screens. So there's quite a variety. I almost like the kind of like the iron color or iron look to them. What I'm seeing, though, also on a lot of these is there just aren't a lot of windows. Because everybody's supposed to be working. They're not supposed to be looking out the window. So, but I almost like the idea of maybe painting them a wood or brown color, then either using a chipping medium or just a hairspray method and coloring it white or some other color like that. And what about like a red? Just out of curiosity, not dark brown. What about? Why don't I pick the third one and that'll be my red here? Just do this. What about something like a red like this one? This is called red primer, so it's kind of a dark red, but like something like that. Now that's pretty intense. But let's see here. If I can get some of this. Let's tone that down a little bit. What about something like that? That'll give it some color as well as some age. So let's see there. What do you think about something like that? Of course, now my fingerprints are all over it, but maybe. So, yeah, no, nothing's going to be pristine on this thing because it just has age to it. It's not, I don't have any place that this is going. Again, I just wanted to try and build a Campbell kit, and this was super cheap, and so I went for it. So yeah, so that's why I looked at. So this is that primer red oil brusher, just as a if I can stop shaking, as an idea. So now on all of the buildings I have been looking at online, I haven't seen a door like that. I haven't seen many doors on these corrugated buildings. They've been generally generally, if there were any windows, it would be windows. At least what I've searched on the Google machine. And that may be just because the pictures are trying to highlight the rusted corrugation. Might be the reason you don't see as many doors on it. And then So I guess the other question is, how many people think that I'm just way overthinking this, since it's not a prototype model that's a contest model or anything like that. That's kind of cool. So I have one here where they actually painted the corrugation. I don't know if it's company colors or not, but like a blue and a white, a blue with a blue over most of it, and then a white stripe in the middle. That's kind of neat. It still has all the rust from the corrugation though. So a few things to think about, but I sort of like the idea of this. Maybe this oil brusher red, or if I use acrylics, I have plenty of reds and browns that I could use. Mom, was somebody murdered? Nobody was murdered there. So leave it to Mom to have no filter. So what have you learned from this kit? What have you learned from this kit that you'll change when you build next? Well, I think I demystified a box of sticks. Is that as much as this is a box of sticks, and as much as or as little information as there is for where to place things, and and having to follow diagram, things like that, um this wasn't a hard kit. It's not a hard thing to do, if you can tell where things go. you know um it was easy to identify that these pieces on the inside are all for support, and they're there for doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they make sense. um I think that I've built enough kits now that it was that breaking into the sticks and figuring out which sticks are which. So that's why last time when Mind Mount Models was on, I praised them, because when they put the wood in in their kit, like the wood supports and everything, and all the different wood that you need, part of their instructions was a color code, and they painted the end of each of the pieces of wood so you knew the size, where I literally had to go in and get my calipers out and measure the wood to determine um, which ones to use. The other thing that I learned from this is there isn't extra wood in the kit that I'm aware of anyway, or haven't seen any extra wood. Um, so to be gentler I have a very strong touch to things. I've always been that way, which is interesting. I have a light step, but when it comes to using my hands, I use a lot of force for whatever reason. Um, and you can't do that with these. You've got to cut precisely, and and have a light touch so that you don't ruin the pieces. And there were a few pieces that I did ruin. I thought I was going to be without, and there is, if you can see here, I don't have one of the cross beams here. And we'll find out if that's a fatal flaw. My fix for that was the other thing I learned, is we have HO scale crying seam tape in this mess of things. We absolutely have HO sale, crime scene tape, courtesy of Tamiya. So let's see if that will help it. How's that? The kits do, yes, the kit does say what the size of the wood is, so you can go and measure. So they list everything out. So here first it was the cardstock, then it's the corrugated aluminum is all measured out. Here's a list. Here's ones where you had to go through and get a number of pieces. But then I had to figure out, and so that's where I had to go measure and pull out the calipers, which is not an awful step. But there are kits that have the visuals on here are generally decent, way better than Walther's visuals. They constantly in the instructions refer you to the visuals. So you have those, and then we saw this last week, but they have these templates too, so they're actual size that you put over top and can get what you need done. So you're going to see for all the cross beams here, you're going to need that, and then for the decking, you're going to need that as well. Well, you can't see that, but for the decking, you'll need that as well. So and it identifies them all. So I don't think these are horrible instructions. I think I've had some easier instructions to read, and I've had some much worse instructions to read. And I've had some that didn't have much, like Walther's. And they're one-pager pictures. Hey, Bob, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. Nice to have you check out. I put in the comments, and the cup is downstairs. I put in the comments of one of the couple weeks ago, the Sidetrack Sunday chat, but I got the mug from Redbubble, and so I really appreciate that. And it's a cool mug, up close and personal, and it holds my coffee just like any other mug does. So really appreciate that. It was really cool to win that on the show. So thanks again, and thanks for stopping in and checking us out here and our little band of crazy people who are trying to steer me down paths of destruction and danger in the modeling world. So the next thing, I'm sure for most of us, tomorrow is a non-modeling day. I did try, Gopher Girl did leave it up to me to figure out what we were doing for Valentine's Day. And I said, I made reservations at the hobby shop. And she's like, absolutely not. I said, well, why'd you leave it up to me then? Well, I think I lost that one, and I ended up making reservations at another place that we actually already like, called Brick and Bourbon, and that's in Eden Prairie. And so we'll be there tomorrow for brunch and Valentine's Day. And she'll probably, it's funny though. We don't do romantic movies. I think I'm the one who wants to do the Lifetime movies, but she wants action movies all the time. So she'll probably ask me to sit down and watch a movie. I'm sure we'll watch some hockey on some Olympic hockey together. The other sports are kind of on hiatus or out of season at this point. So that'll probably be our Saturday, and then Sunday I'll get back to model railroading, unless Oh, very nice. Um, very nice. Um, so, uh, um, we have we have season tickets to the University of Minnesota hockey team, and we keep going back and forth. We love Broadway plays, and so we there's always a Broadway series in Minneapolis. So we go back and forth about switching those up. We never do, but we've been to a few plays many years ago out here. But I was very lucky. My parents exposed me to Broadway. I grew up in New Jersey, saw many Broadway plays in my time, and love it. So um, and that's not the symphony, but have fun with that, Bob. That's got to be pretty cool. So Jimmy, all this time, um, we've been out here. There have been some good shows coming to the Chanhassen Dinner Theater, and we've never gone. I'm a little ashamed of that. So, um, but I grew up with the Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals. I remember when I was really young. Uh, my parents went to see Cats on Broadway, and they wanted us to see it, but they wanted us to understand it because they didn't want to waste the money if we weren't going to understand what the story was about. So for the longest time after dinner, they had bought a book of the play. My dad would sit us down. um, I can't imagine I wasn't 7 years old at the time. My brother, like 9. Um, I'm guessing, and he would sit us down and we'd go through a song and what the song was about and everything, and then he wouldn't go through one of the big scenes. Spoiler alert: it's when they're sending the cat up to heaven, and this big giant tire comes off the ground, and there's smoke coming in. So me, as that young kid, like, that was like so cool. Um, and it was also back in the day before lawsuits, where when they started it, I was sitting on the aisle, and all the cat characters would come down the aisle, crawling around, sniffing you, and they'd was sniffing up my legs. I remember asking my dad what what I should do. I didn't know what I should do, and he goes, "Pet it." And so I did. And so this was back when you didn't get sued for that or get punched for that or anything like that. So good memories on that. And then when I had other chances to see Broadway plays, um, and Gopher Girl's not here, but I think the last one, she would be able to confirm. I think the last one we saw together was Moving Out, which was the Billy Joel adaptation, which was fantastic and a lot of fun. Um, we had seen Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. We saw them out here in Minneapolis, and there was one or two others that we saw as well. So, um, and Guys and Dolls uh, um, was not a play that I ever think I saw. Um, so maybe it's one I got to see. But that the Chanhassen Dinner Theater is so far away from me. Like a couple blocks basically, and we haven't been there. We went to the movie theater back there once, I think, or twice, because I think they were doing second run movies at the time, so they were really cheap. We went on this tear of of going to secondhand theaters so we could see movies much cheaper for a while. Yeah, so that's my plan, is to airbrush these guys. Um, and I think I don't know if you were on, but what originally I was thinking of doing, and what these guys were encouraging me to do, was kind of do chip paint, which I would do. So I would do kind of like a brown, and then maybe another color over top of it, so that this would and chip that away so that it will look like wood. But on the reason for the police tape is because I made this look like a very bad scene, and then my mother started all of this craziness. But what I was trying to do, because this is oil paint, this is an oil brusher, this got smeared really quickly. But I was looking at using a dark color like the dark red from that to to do that. So, and hey, Brad, welcome in. Do not get me started on Broadway Limited. So I just got a new airbrush for Christmas, which is this Harder and Steenbeck Evolution airbrush. Voila. Um, I decided I wanted to. I always went cheap, so I was one of the first, I think, in the hobby that had one of the beauty airbrushes, and then um, I and I had two of those, and I said to my wife that I wanted to move up in the world, and I said, let's do a budget of $150 to $200, and so I got that one, and I have yet I because usability is usability. I have yet to tell the difference between the two, except for the tip isn't bent, so there's less splatter. Um, yep, gravity feed. I haven't used the siphon feed before. I got a bunch of old stuff that my dad had when he passed away, and I never really put it together and used it. But um, he had some that were he had one that was like a side feed. It was really weird. And then siphon feed, he had a bunch of siphon feed, and then he had a couple that were um gravity feed. And so I'm thanks to model railroading, I've been airbrushing for a while, and so yeah, that's what I'll do. So I'll likely do the color I want to come through, then maybe do, like, I have some chipping medium stuff somewhere, so I could use that, or I could use hairspray, which I have, then paint over it, with a lighter color maybe, and then chip that away to have that brown or red look come through. Otherwise, I may just, for these. So what I was also saying earlier, um, so um, for I don't think these windows overall are very good industrial looking windows, but they are what came with it, and so that's why I was looking at maybe doing a dark color right off, like this red um, here. And sorry if you can hear that. That's Gopher Girl getting home from her um, errands or whatever. But that's what I was doing right there under the police tape, just to show, because that's almost like iron anyway, with that red color. But either way, so that'll be next on here, and then we'll get back to staining some more of the support wood that's probably going to go on top, and then get back to building. And it's really just this page that I have here. So it's a lot of steps. So it's step 12 is what I'm on right now. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm on step 13 now. And it's got a total of 25 steps, or 27 steps. And it goes back to cardstock. You have to put in the brass lampshades. So that's part of the parts. Then there's a lot of barrels. Like I said, there's this one shovel on here. Then on here, a ton of barrels. And then it has these light shades. And then this is some brass wire, or stiff wire anyway, that you use with the light shades. And then you can put lights in them. That's what those are. And so there's a whole nother bag of wood that's going to be, the roof part here, and the decking underneath will be that bag B. But we'll keep moving through it. So, other than seeing the newer airbrushes that promise less cleaning by siphoning the paint in front of the brush, with the brush just adding the air, me not using siphon feed, is there an advantage to it? Is it just something that pulls it up and just spreads more? Or is there, I'm curious, because I've never used the siphon feed bit. The beauty airbrushes from the gravity feed, they have gigantic, because they use more water-based stuff and need more of it for a head of hair. They come with bigger plastic what do you call these containers but I've never used them. I've never needed that much paint, because of course HO scale, you don't need that much, but that always came with it. This one, you had to buy the bigger paint container separately, but it's what made it affordable, was kind of bare bones. So I think you'll find that modelers like a mixture of both. If it's a model they haven't done before, I think they're going to want the pictures more, because they want to know they're kind of getting it right. These instructions have two things. So they have identifiers for all the pieces, and they have a general setup of the way it should go, including the corrugations. They have two spots here with corrugations, then all of those instructions, and then it has templates that you actually do some work over top of. So I wouldn't say these were bad instructions. I just think they're a lot of instructions in small print. And if you bear with me for a moment, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So to give you some other examples, if I still have it in here. Let's see. Nope. Oh yeah. Blair line. I would say are okay with instructions. Theirs come in parts, and so I stapled mine together, but they come loosely, and they give you examples. They talk about painting in here. They give you required tools, remind you to examine parts. They give you a part sheet, so where they identify all the parts that you're going to work with, and then they give you here's step one has these few instructions, but then they give you the visuals with all the part numbers. Here again, not a lot of instructions needed, and then parts, and their kits, they fit together and they have notches and things, and then go through here and so I consider these decent instructions for sure. The ones I liked a lot were mind mount models. So this is what I was talking about. They painted the ends of their wood, gave you their own scale rulers if you wanted to use them. They painted the edge of the ends of the wood and gave you the corresponding sizes. So whereas this one, they just gave you the sizes, and I had to go measure them to make sure I had the right ones. This was really helpful to me, so I really liked it. On their sheet with their extra, their signs and everything, they also gave you the bracing instructions with color, to show you where they went and which ones went where. They also gave you another a parts diagram like Blairline does. They give you one here with the so they match the sheet of wood match, so you know exactly what you're looking at, and then the part numbers in there as well. And that's not all. Their full instructions are in color, so that's fun. They're willing to put the money in for the color. Is it absolutely necessary for the color? Maybe not. But here again, they give you tools and supplies needed, steps to do with assembly, bracing that they want you to do first, and so he goes through and does all of the steps, and the steps are numbered to help you through if you want to know where you're at. I always check off with each one so I remember where I'm at. Plenty of visuals, does it in color, which is impressive because that takes money to print color these days, and takes you through the steps here. So it depends on how much you want to invest in this piece. he does a little more investment in this, so there's going to be more cost there. His models cost a bit more than Blair Line, for instance. Campbell's cost a lot of money. They're older. They don't discount them now that they're out of print or anything. I just happened to find them at a place that wanted to get rid of them and had one left, and it was $10 for one that was probably in the realm of, I'm guessing, $60 to $70 is my guess. But yeah, so there's all kinds of it was definitely the easiest to follow. So, the things I liked were the parts identification, any parts identification that you can use, visuals, so that I feel like I'm getting things in the right place, or I can see that I used the wrong piece or put it in the wrong spot when it was supposed to go on the left and I put it on the right. I'm going to be able to see that through the visuals, where I'm not going to see that through here because I'm interpreting how they talk about something. So that's important to me. And then obviously seeing a final product is nice to have. But like I said, color instructions, if that's going to drive up the cost of your kits or whatever you're selling, I would say, if you can, stay away from that so you don't drive up the cost. You keep the cost down where you can, because I think we as modelers, even new modelers, can get away with the drawings versus pictures and multicolor and stuff like that. But making sure people can identify parts is really important, especially if you have a lot of parts and a lot of small parts. So yeah. So that's hopefully that helps, and we'll see what you come up with. So welcome in, Gopher Girl. We only talked about you a little bit. They all know where you're going for brunch tomorrow. Maybe I told you already because I don't remember anything anymore. But yeah. So now somehow, I don't know if anybody can write small enough to put police on the police tape or caution on the caution tape. So who was it? When I did Blair Line, when I did the depot, so I did an abandoned depot out of the depot thing. One of the things I didn't like that they did, so I'll let you know that, especially if you're doing 3D printed parts, is don't put the identifying marks on the front of a piece or the piece that's you're gonna see visually in front of you. I don't remember if it was a roof piece, which wouldn't be helpful to show you because I chopped all those up. But it was a marking that they put on, or no, it was on a wall that so you see it on the wall, and that was just an identifier. So don't do that. No, I must have covered it up because I was really okay. Well, I did a good job covering it up. So, but don't put your markings on a side where it can be seen. Um, so if you're doing the other thing you can do, even if you don't have markings on the parts, what you can do is you can draw the shape. So like on the so while these are the laser cut sheets and everything, if you're drawing the shape in your instructions and you identify it in the instructions like this, you don't necessarily need the part to have the identifying mark on it. You can do that. You can do and put in the instructions to remove the tab. So you could do that. It depends on how you print, Bob. If you need, you can, there are ways to get detail on multiple sides, and it's the way you position your piece. So let me see if I have a good example of something I printed. What did I do with, where did I put it? So here's an example for everybody else of what Bob's talking about. And again, I'm not sure if you'll see this. I had, when I printed this, it's, you don't really see the lines in here because this side was printed on the bed. And so it all melted together. The problem with this is it has a lot of glue and rough spots because I had an unclean bed. But then you look at this side and here are all the lines from the printing from the filament. So it can have to do with how you position something on the bed. And so you can determine which parts you want to stand up if it works better to stand them up or put them on an angle with some supports. So you can embed things using it. It depends on what's the Prusa and Cura and bamboo slicers are the same. And I know on the bamboo slicer, you can put things in there. So you can embed them. If it's an unseen, well, yeah, that would be up to the person printing it, but you can print it in multicolor. But I don't think that's a great solution for you if you're selling a small product like that. But as long as it's on an unseen side, I don't think anybody would have a problem with a small marking. But I think you could get away with drawing the part in your instructions and marking the part in there so that when you have the typed instructions and you say part A to part B, they can refer to that and don't necessarily need that on what you're building, but it depends on what you're making. So if you're including a photo, that's even, I think, better than even a drawing because they'll know exactly what piece it is. So I don't think you can go wrong with a photo. I had an old kit of these two company that's not around anymore, but of these two grain bins. and they had 2 photos in there separate from the instructions, these 2 old photos. It was really interesting to see, and it showed you exactly what you needed, so that would work well. So, uh, yep, Orca, not Cure, I'm sorry. Yep, um yeah, if you have if it's recessed, the likelihood is it's gonna want you to put supports in there. Um, and if it's a tiny recess and you have tiny supports in there, those supports technically don't have to come out. So they could be really tiny and form your mark that you want, and they don't necessarily have to come out. But if somebody wanted to pull them out, it still should be the shape of your mark. Um, but I think, just my opinion, if you're providing a picture of the parts, there shouldn't be any confusion in your instructions if you're telling them it's part A, part B, part C, and you have that in your picture. I think it'll be just fine. And um, whatever it is you're building, um, if you want me to test it out for you and show people how to put it together or something like that, send it my way, and I'll prototype for you if you like. Um, see what we can do to promote your product. Um, be happy to do that. Um, and you have my address, so you can send me anything, basically. But I'd be interested to see what you come up with. You know, I'm a lot of what you're going to see here. Now, this is a totally a side project for me right now. A lot of what I'm doing for the NMRA Achievement Program is done based in 3D printing, and I have a bamboo A1. That's what I'm using to 3D print. Yep, I would go for it and try and see if you can do that. Um, so I'm building cars. So what I just showed you was a um, what I was showing was a passenger car. This is for my era. Um, so here's the shell of one. I've done the underbody as well, and you can see I did the center doors. And this is a copy of a Walther's Horizon kit that I did. Um, to compare, here's one I'm working on, the actual Horizon kit right there. And then here's an underbody with most of the underbody parts are 3D printed. So, again, all with the bamboo A1. I didn't design the trucks. They're not prototype trucks for this type of car, but they're the best trucks I've found online from other designers. Everything else was designed by me. So, and I'm currently trying to finish up a gondola. And I started on motive power. This is my little prototype of a catenary maintenance vehicle that I'll power as well. and all for the AP program. And that's me. I was actually painting that. It was like blue paint. The underbody part for this was separate. But anyway, so working through those projects. What and I know that Tom had brought this up at one point, that the achievement programs to make you a better modeler, and it is, and I'm becoming a better modeler for it, from the modeling that I do with my hands, but also the design from my CAD design has gotten much better, and you can see that in the models that I have printed. So so I do want that to be the tool. And I was thinking about what Tom said and why I want that to be my tool for my models is because I can have much better looking models from my design than I can from my hands. And I'd rather have that nicer design on my layout. And that's why I like to pursue the CAD drawing and everything. So the decals are for our Canadian friends and decals for our American friends. That's another mountain to climb that I'm getting better at, thanks to the achievement program as well. Not great at, but um, paper wanting, that should be interesting. That'll be neat to do, and I'd be happy to help promote it for you. Um, so yeah. So we're covering a wide range of topics tonight, which is really nice. Um, Minus all the police action that seems to be going on in the background. So, Tom, every time I want to go to check out the wet paint store that you've been talking about forever, I all of a sudden seem to veer off to the hobby shop. And so I've got to focus when I'm going to St. Paul and make sure that I go to that store, um, because I end up at the hobby shop if I'm in St. Paul. And I even like going the longer route now to the hobby shop than I used to from when they closed down 94 for a bit. I was taking the longer route and I like that better. Yes, it definitely does. Um, it definitely does, Jimmy. Um, Spend hours designing and then hours fixing after I get those first prints out. I do a lot of prototype printing and I do a lot of fixing. So I have a lot of pieces done so far. So I have the golden spike. I did that back in 2021 with the N scale layout I had at the time. Um, I'm trying to finish up the cars to get the rolling stock or car certificate. And I want to start working on the prototype certificate, would be the next one. That would include trying to get, I can still use super detailed um, rolling stock and super detailed um, engines for the prototype scene. But if I can get that catenary maintenance vehicle working as a model, I would love to put that on the prototype scene and get the prototype certificate. I'm also working on both the volunteer and um, the author certificates right now. I've now done a clinic for our division. I've done articles. I do articles for each of our um, region newsletter. I did write one for the national, but I didn't have pictures for it, and they want pictures, and I haven't been able to get those pictures to send to them on it. But I write a primer article, and I do the primer articles for just getting people's feet wet in things. So the last one I did on Sculpt-A-Mold, for instance. So hopefully soon I'll have the author certificate as well. So what's what's a really neat payoff to the design work is once you get the design, the printing is just sitting there and waiting for it to print out, and you can do variations if you want. You can just do, you can print as many as you need. So, when I've completed the passenger cars, you need a lot of passenger cars for um, a transit system. Well, that becomes much easier once you've got it. I have a couple of the YouTube videos being looked at right now by our AP chair for our division. I have one on the Golden Spike Award, so my journey on that, which includes information about the Golden Spike and how to get it, and then I submitted by video because it was during the pandemic. Um, I have there were a couple others that I have that were promoting NMRA things. I think the Sculpt-A-Mold one probably would qualify. They get half the credit as an authorship, and I've already done the Sculpt-A-Mold as an article. If I can submit the Sculpt-A-Mold as a video too, then I should be able to get half credit on that one. So yes, you do. So you can get credit. I haven't heard back yet from the AP chair on that for our division, or AP representative for our division, but he was taking a look at a couple of those videos for me. So yes, you definitely can. And boy, you need to fill 45 minutes. You need Thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. You need to fill like a 45-minute clinic. You need a lot. The clinic I did for our last division meeting, which was this week, was like, what was it? 9 minutes was the clinic, and I had one question after that. So I think the clinic in total was like 10 or 12 minutes, but and that covered a lot. But I'll have to design some clinics eventually that are longer. And I did it as a video clinic, and then was there to answer questions. Even though I'm doing this and I do the videos and all of that stuff, I still, when I'm face to face with people, I get stage fright and I go running for the hills. So, no, they don't have it. It's not about the views, it's about the content. So the content has to be model railroading related, has to be promoting the NMRA in some way, or about the NMRA in some way. And it has to have that element to it, but there's no length issue with it or anything. They just give you, it's just because it's a newer technology, they give you half credit. Yeah, I think those will do much better. Anything that's going to promote NMRA in a sense, but be let's just go to author. So you get so many points for publications. So For an article or a column in a national publication, you get 3 points. For an NMRA national publication, 3 points. For a region publication, 2 points. And for an NMRA division or SIG, 1 point. So in that sense, and they talk about the page being defined as 800 words. Then they talk about live clinics, and you get more points at national, regional, division. It's, breaks down on that. A live clinic can be claimed for Model Railroad Author Ones. So if I claim it for the division, but then I go and present it at national, I've already claimed it for the division. I'm out the extra points. Then they have information about informal publications. And so you can get no more than a total of half the author points, or 21 points, claim for an informal publication, which they call written material on a blog, website, or online magazine, meeting the requirements, earns credits at the same rate as published articles in regional publications. Audio-visual materials such as online videos earn credits at the same rate as clinics in non-NMRA national sponsored events. Credit earned is for each hour of completed production time. A 1 hour video earns 3 points as the example. Material presented via NMRA X or the NMRA YouTube channel earns credit at the same rate as clinics in the NMRA national sponsored events, if not claimed as a live clinic. Now, these have been updated. It used to be even less credit for some of this. Podcasts earn credit at the same rate as clinics in non-NMRA regional sponsored events. So material claim must be documented in a record, validation by and reviewed by an NMRA member. Material covers model railroading, prototype railroading applicable to modeling or NMRA administration. Material is educational in nature, accessible in a public forum, not behind a paywall. URL must be provided and functional. Is original work of the author with appropriate citation or credit given to materially fairly included in the production. So there you go. So they have updated it for the first time in a long time. So yeah, in a sense instructional, but I think that it can be promotional too, as long as it's talking about the things it needs to talk about. It doesn't talk about any length, really. It looks like here. Well, it does talk a little bit about that, about the video. You're not really going to ever have a 1 hour video. Even the NMRA X clinics are 45 minutes. I'm never going to put a video on YouTube that's an hour long other than these lives. I could do a live and call it a clinic and show that it's a clinic and teach you something on here. And if it stays on topic, then I'm sure it would qualify and get so many points for however long it may be. It looks like the podcast also, they're sticking at an hour to earn 2 points for the podcast. So credit earned for each hour of completed production time. Now, they say for each hour of production time, are they talking about, that's another thing I'll have to reach out to clarify, is production time, the production time is not the end result. The production time is how long it takes you. So if it takes you 10 hours to put a video together or a podcast together. I'll have to get some clarification on that again, because these are new stipulations. So stays on topic. Well, you if I ignore all of your comments, I could stay on topic. And so I may, if I were doing a clinic live like this, and I was sitting here and teaching you how to do this building or something, I would certainly want to stay on topic anyway. But yeah, but otherwise we don't stay on topic here. I couldn't talk for an hour on the same topic. I don't think. We've bounced around to a bunch of things. I mean, how many times can I show you my totally excellent shovel that I did that I'm super impressed with? I could say I'm showing it to everybody who joined late and then talk about it. I don't know. But so So it's much more than that, Jimmy, and ask me how I know. I can spend, and maybe I'm inefficient, I don't know, but I could spend easily 8 or 10 hours between filming, audio, editing of both the film and the audio, and getting it together and published. That could be 8 to 10 hours for 5 minutes of video. So, Bob, Cynthia was very willing to look at my article, but she said you need pictures. She won't look at them without pictures. Thanks. Appreciate the comments on the shovel. But yeah, so I did an article on how an article that was centered on divisions promoting themselves and promoting membership, and I didn't think it needed visuals because it's literally, I mean, but Mr. Ken still has my thumb drive. I don't know if he threw pictures on it at this point, but I think it was going to go around to a couple people and they were going to get, a whole bunch of pictures from our division events on there for that. But so I've kind of shelved that for now and started working on it. So every quarter I come out with these primer articles, and they're very surface articles. They're still long and there's lots of pictures of them, but pictures in them, but they're different topics to get people's feet wet, to just jump in, like goes across the bottom of my screen all the time. Just jump in. That's kind of the motto of it. And just trying to give people a surface, a tease of what things are, and not trying to get into the weeds and explain, I know how to do things best or anything like that. It's just get people interested. Yeah, but yeah, my topic wasn't about layouts, so that was the thing. So, and we have plenty of pictures that people take. I'm just not one of those. When I'm doing an NMRA event, I'm very active in the events, and I'm not taking pictures. But we have lots of people in our division that take the pictures, and I I know I still owe you. We could do a trade. I still owe you one of these, Ken. Uh, so, uh, but I think Ken Borowski was gonna add some pictures. Tom, I think, was gonna add some pictures at one point, and we just got on to other things and other division events were going on, and so I never really pursued it. So, you know, if I get a chance to, great. Um, if not, we'll. Um, so, what happens, Blair Rock? Did your comment disappear before you put it out? I don't see any comment here. So, um, yeah, that's what's going on, and um, I certainly the next piece of all of these things I'm doing. I'm trying to keep track. I have a binder of all of the achievement program stuff. Um, it's not as pretty as Damon's was because I don't do anything pretty. All my stuff is a mess. Um, but I have my fancy little achievement program binder. I'm gonna have to update that logo now. But I have to get things signed off. That I have been doing. I have half of the volunteer points already just from holding offices with the division, and I'm now the secretary for the region. Plus, I've done a few of our events, so I should have the volunteer one. I should wrap up at some point soon, I hope. I have to figure out all. I figured out the time units on those. I have to figure out the time units from the 2 trunk sales. And then from the regional committee member, I guess I'd be regional committee member or board member. What would I be with secretary? Just the guy that takes notes at our meetings. Satisfaction of service of a board member at a rate of half time unit per month. So I don't know. So that's what is that, 6 per year? So I'll get 6 time units for being secretary. So you need 60 units. I have 36 from being at-large director in the division. I'll have, I think, contest judging units. I judged a contest at our regional last year, and then the 2 trunk sales, and then another 6. So I should be on my way. I should be pretty close to the volunteer. And no, Tom, I'm not ready for superintendent. Hey, Bob, have a great night. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it a lot. And looking forward to more of your work and watching you on Sidetrack Sunday, which everybody else should watch as well. Now, you should be able to just search PK Model Works Bob on YouTube to find his stuff. So if I went in and I did PK if I spell it right. Yeah, spelling is fundamental. WERX. Well, let's see if Jimmy survives the um, his regional position. All right, folks. Thanks for stopping in. It looks like a lot of people are dropping out because it's getting late, and we know tomorrow is not a model railroading day. So I will also say have a fantastic night and a fantastic weekend, and remember to just jump in. And we will see you next Friday. Have a good night, everyone.